Okay, so this is Robert Forsch with part 2 sunrise today, and the moon is high in the sky. The moon appeared from this location at 3:36 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it is a 13% moon. The Tides Near Me app is the one that I use. Gives very accurate projection for when the sun and the moon appear and vanish. From this location, I've been able to confirm it with thousands of hours of time invested to capture photography and videography from this area. This is the Cherry Grove Fishing Pier in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And now I'll go ahead and zoom in on the Myrtle Beach skyline. That is the Apache Fishing Pier right there. Then the Grand Dunes is about in the middle of the view there. I'll be able to show that a bit better when the sun appears from this location. Water is a natural level. When liquid is, I should say as well. When large structures are built and laser levels are calibrated, a liquid level is utilized. You're looking at the largest liquid level in the world right here. Looks like we might have a fish down here. I've seen, oh yeah, a little school of fish. A storm surge during a hurricane or tropical storm is the effect of wind moving across the top of the water. So sometimes we'll have a storm surge that's 15 feet above high tide, which can be devastating. When we had Hurricane Matthew, it covered over the tops of these dunes by several feet. Earlier, where I was at the Coastal Preserve with the unmagnified, longer version of this recording, you can see that the height of the railing where I was, the water was a couple feet above that. That's why the houses are on stilts by the beach, because the water, the tidal activity can be overwhelmed with the storm surge. So we can have hundreds of miles an hour of wind moving over the water for a long distance, and that just causes the water to build up. The storm surge, as it's called. can see the tractor lights coming across the water there. I'm going to take us a little bit further out because the buildings are going to block the view of the sun appearing from here. So the sun, moon, and stars move above the stationary Earth. That's the biblical proclamation. God's word has it right, and NASA is a deceptive organization projecting a false reality on humanity, and I'm exposing that. People will mock and make fun of that because, well, that works for them. If NASA is right and God doesn't exist, then just do whatever you want. That doesn't mean everybody that believes we live on a spinning water sphere is an atheist. Just a whole lot of them are. That's what you need to know. The real scientific, cerebral, with a lot of letters around their name and digits in their bank account, well, they're deceived. They don't know it. Quite often they're very proud. Pride is a powerful catalyst for deception. Proud people are easily deceived people. We can see the diffused lighting bouncing off of the buildings there. That's all part of, as I was referring to earlier, laws of perspective. The lighting, the light source, the amount of ambient lighting all around, diffused lighting. The way that the waves change in height, change the reflection. When I was at the Coastal Preserve showing you that location, that's a sea level liquid mirror that will vary in elevation from a low tide to a high tide. That may be a 7-foot variance in the height of the mirror that is. So if you were to go to my YouTube channel, Truth, you could look at the videos and when they were posted. They go in chronological order. And then my liked video playlist, sometimes I'll move those around. More recently, I put a lot of the videos that I'm in towards the top, including the Logan Paul mockumentary. The trailer for that was actually I was pretty encouraged to see that. I thought he might actually expose the reality of the world we live in. Found that to not be accurate. So what is the motivation for why we do what we do? Well, I'm motivated by God to do what He created me to do, and exposing the reality of the world we live in is what I'm all about. This area right now is closed for king mackerel fishing. Closed to people that aren't doing that, like me right now. And I wanted to show you from this elevation what it looks like. And then I'll take us up higher, show you what it looks like from there as well. Good morning. So any moment right now the sun should burn through the cloud cover. Like I said earlier, if you hashtag local sun, you'll see breathtaking videography of that. The way that the lighting changes, as you can see from the start of the broadcast earlier, or the recording earlier, shows that the lighting is in a much smaller, from a much smaller perspective. The sun is local and small, just as Job 37 talks about, moving over the stationary earth. That's down on the point where I recorded yesterday. You can see it if you care to. And the 13% moon won't be visible probably within an hour or so. It gives off its own light, and yet there's like a charging up effect of the sun on the moon. So in Joshua 10, God stopped the sun from moving, not the earth from spinning. Now the way that the sun is punching through those clouds, you can see that it's clearly not 92.8 million miles away. You don't feel yourself spinning, wobbling, or gyrating, do you? The earth doesn't move. That's not just one cherry-picked verse out of the Bible, that's a theme. God's character is evident within His creation, within this creation. Quite a bit of moisture over the Myrtle Beach skyline, so we won't be able to see much of that now. There's the evidence of the small local sun punching through right there in the middle of the view. That's called Wade's Island right there, and the Tillman Fishing Pier. The breakwater right there, the pylons that I'm looking for, I believe I'm on them right now, they are at the Intracoastal Waterway there. That's where the ships go through. So from this vantage point, we can see the sun coming up there, and in the winter, it will come up in the middle of the view there. My January recording that I moved up to the top of my playlist will show that, if you care to see it. I'll show you real quick what the moisture does on the horizon here. It's one of the reasons why we can't see Europe from here, is because that's being blocked out by the moisture. Clearly no curvature visible on the horizon. 8 inches per mile squared can't be found. If you find it, link it in a comment. I'll be happy to evaluate it, but I've tested it, driven cross country, flown cross country. There's no accounting for any travel time difference with the supposed 1,038 per mile rotation of the Earth. Because it's not moving. In the 650 miles of missing curvature between here and California, it's not there. You can look at earthcurvature.com. It'll give you calculations for the spherical trigonometry to prove that the globe is a lie. So do you believe we live on a spinning water sphere with people upside down in relationship to other people? If you do, then you're deceived. I was one of the deceived individuals, and now I'm aware that that's a lie. NASA lies, not always. When they're instructing pilots to fly fixed-wing aircraft over a stationary assumed level plane, flying at over 2,000 miles an hour, they need to know that there's no curvature and no rotation. So if you're not a Bible believer, there's empirical evidence to prove that the globe is a lie. And if you're a Bible believer, then you might want to look into what the firmament is, because that's a structure that separates the waters from above from the waters below. It's more than water vapor, folks. You can't flood a ball. We had water cover the face of the earth to over the tops of all the mountains. We've got mountains over 5.5 miles tall now with Mount Everest. And that's what we know, what we're told anyway. And by irony and paradox, we don't know what we don't know, so the deceived are unaware that they're deceived. And if they've got a lot of stuff and recognition and letters around their name, very largely people give them credibility, even though it's unwarranted. So artificial intelligence is more like the Terminator, and it's projecting a false reality on humanity, just so you're aware of that. God is still sovereign, meaning He's in charge of everything. That's disturbing when you look at the atrocities that still occur in this world, and I trust that He knows what He's doing. So I thought I was born again in 1982 until I actually was in 2014. That's why this is such a big deal, because there's a lot of phony churches promoting slip your hand up and write the date in the Bible as to when you became a child of God. You either are or you're not. If you're not a child of God, the Bible's going to be foolishness to you, and you'll want to do your own thing. I had enough of that. Now I'll just do what I'm created to do, and everybody else can love it, hate it. There's not a whole lot of in-between with that. Here we go. There's the sun right there. Now watch how the sun moves. I'm going to try and hold it very still here, and you'll see that it's the sun that's moving. It's a localized light. We can tell because there very likely will look like clouds behind the sun today. Again, that occurs quite often. There is mystery with the sun and the moon, to be sure. So there are some very analytical, highly indoctrinated people that will say it's an amusing illusion that the sun is in the midst of the clouds. Well, that's what the Bible says. That works for me. Job 37. That's how it appears. You can believe whatever you want. Most people do. I just have been given a love for the truth. As the sun moves closer, it's going to appear to be higher. Lower is further away. Higher is closer. Laws of perspective. We can see the reflections on the water shooting across the tops of the waves now. Now we can see the moisture in the right next to the ocean much better, more clearly. That's an atmospheric lens that I'm using. This is the P1000 with no filter on it, just using the moisture in the atmosphere that we breathe. So I've got CIA documents on my liked videos that talk about fixed-wing aircraft of a stationary, flying over a stationary plane, assumed flat plane. Like I said, NASA doesn't always lie. The moon landing was an obvious hoax. I've got evidence of that on my channel, as well as video evidence of no rover up on the moon. I'm going to zoom in on that right now because, well, it won't be visible in a little while. There you go. So if you were to evaluate the sun and the moon appearing in the different locations around the world, you would see that what NASA is saying about a rotating Earth isn't possible. They're running different courses, different paths. Both the sun and the moon run a different path. And as best I've been able to tell, the Book of Enoch does a great job of explaining that. So I showed the break in the water, the light reflecting over the point yesterday. Now from about 40 feet in the air with the waves, it's a different appearance to be sure. So do you know how much a gallon of water weighs? That depends on the temperature, because the temperature change drives the water cycle of the world. Evaporation, condensation, and precipitation in all its forms. Enough temperature change will change the state of water. Steam, ice, fog drives the energy of the world, power generation, Water seeking its level, moving through dams and turbines, hydroelectric power, and then we've got nuclear, coal, natural gas fired turbines to create steam to move the electrical generating systems. If you put a container of water, I prefer glass. The temperature increase will cause water to continue to come out of the top until it has fully reached its expansion. You could test it out if you like. You could make it a thing. If you believe you live on a spinning water sphere, go ahead and prove it. Send me all your evidence. Be happy to look at that. As homeschooling parents, we taught the global lie, unaware that it was a lie. Working at a full-time ministry, Christian ministry, I didn't know it was a lie. Leading men's groups at a mega church, I didn't know it was a lie. And the irony of all that is, I didn't even know I wasn't born again until I actually was just a few years ago, in 2014. Thank you so much for your public and private encouragement. Feel free to reach out anytime. My phone number is 1-843-504-1776. If you would like stickers, you can send a self-addressed stamped envelope to 169 Cloverleaf Drive, Longs, South Carolina 29568. Thank you so much.